Welcome to Solving Linear Equations. So we're going to talk today about how you can solve an equation. So here are the steps that you will use for any type of equation. First thing, you got to simplify both sides of the equation. There are two steps to simplifying. First, you need to distribute anything that needs to be distributed. So if you see those parentheses, make sure and multiply into them. Next, you need to combine like terms. First, you need to make sure they are on the same side of the equal sign in order for you to combine them. If they are on opposite sides, then you need to go to step 2 here. If there are variables on both sides, you move one of them over by adding or subtracting. You always move over the smallest term. Then you get rid of the number that is not attached to the variable by adding or subtracting, and then you get rid of the number that is attached to the variable. So let's try a few of these. Okay, first here we have 3x minus 2 equals 10. So we're going to draw our wall to show both sides of the equal sign. And from here, remember we start with getting rid of the number without the variable. So in this case it would be minus 2. So the opposite would be plus 2. Bring down your 3x and then equals 12. And remember, if a number is attached to a variable, that does mean 3 times x. So the opposite would be to divide by that 3. And then so x equals 4. Okay, let's go ahead and go on. Our next equation does have variables on both sides. So we're going to draw our wall. Please remember you cannot combine the 9x and the 13 because they both do not have an x. And same thing here with the 5x and the 57. So we said when we have variables on both sides of the wall, you move over the smallest. So in this case, the smallest would be 5x. So the opposite would be to subtract. So those would cancel out. 9 minus 5 would give us 4x. Then minus 13 equals 57. From there, remember you need to get rid of the number that is not attached to the variable. So we have a minus 13. So we want to add 13. So those cancel out. We get 4x equals 70. And the last thing, to get rid of the 4, we have to divide by 4. So x equals 17.5. So now that we've tried that, I want you guys to try one on your own. So here's a you try problem. Please go through, work it out, and answer the questions. Now from there, we have a nice long equation, so we will be able to go through all of the steps that we mentioned earlier. So we draw the wall. Again, we have parentheses, so first thing we need to do is distribute. The 3 times y will be 3y. And don't forget to take the 3 times the 2, so the minus sign does come down. 3 times 2 is 6. This 2 that we distribute, please be very careful that you know it is a negative 2 because of the minus sign. So if we take a negative 2 times a 3y, that gives us a negative 6y. And when we take a negative 2 times this minus 1, remember that makes that minus 1 a negative 1. So it's a negative 2 times negative 1, which gives me a positive 2, so I bring down a plus 2. And bring down that 53. Our next step after we distribute was to combine like terms. There is no like terms on this side, so I'm just going to go ahead and write down the 53. On this side we have a 3y, and that's a minus 6y. So that would give me a negative 3y. And remember, this 6 is negative since it has a minus sign in front of it, and that 2 is positive since it has a plus sign. So negative 6 plus 2 would give us a negative 4. Now we have it down to a more simplified equation. We need to move over the number that does not have the variable, so I will add the 4 to both sides. Those cancel out. I get a 57 equals negative 3y. And the last thing, remember, is to divide by a negative 3. So 57 divided by negative 3 would give me a negative 19. And that's as hard as your equations will get. So what I want you to do is please write down this problem, work it out, and bring it to class tomorrow.